In this Phantom Blade Zero video, I'm going to be talking about my hands-on impressions with the title. I got to play at Gamescom just a few days ago. I spent about 30 minutes playing through the game. I played through the demo on both normal and hard modes, so you'll see gameplay from both of those in this video. And this is a game that was probably the best game I saw at the game show, and is arguably one of the best games I've played this year. This is a game that's being developed and published by S-Game that's going to be coming to PlayStation 5 and PC probably sometime next year. We don't have a release date yet, but that's kind of the ballpark that I got from speaking with them. So the combat of Phantom Blade Zero is based off Chinese martial arts, and they actually used real kung fu masters in Hong Kong, motion captured them, and used that for this game, which is pretty cool. And if you look at the combat of the game, it kind of reminds me somewhere between like Sekiro and Ninja Gaiden. It's not as methodical as Sekiro, and it's more flashy like Ninja Gaiden, but there is sort of like an offensive and defensive side of it that reminds me of Sekiro, where you're not always attacking. Sometimes you're deflecting, sometimes you're attacking, and there's kind of this like tug of war going on in combat. And combat kind of revolves around breaking the guard of enemies, or the stance, or posture, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if it has an exact name in Phantom Blade Zero yet, but you're attacking them, you're trying to break through them so you can do like a critical strike on them, and at the same time you're deflecting and countering their attacks. And when they do the blue flashing attacks, you have to parry at the right moment. This will slow down time, do kind of a sick animation, and then you can begin your offensive on the enemy, and sort of swaps you over from defending into attacking instantly. And the same thing happens when a red flashing attack happens. In this case, you have to dodge at the right time instead of parry, and if you do this, you'll kind of end the offensive assault of the enemy or boss and begin your counterattack, which is lightning fast, slows down time. The whole thing looks so amazing, and it's just really fun to pull this off. And as I mentioned, it feels kind of like a tug of war, where you're attacking into an enemy or boss, and then at some point you can tell that they're done blocking and they're going to start swinging, and then you go into parrying and deflecting and blocking and dodging, and then looking for the opportunity to counter, and then doing that, and just back and forth like that throughout boss fights. They feel very dynamic. They feel very much like a sword fight, if you will, because it's just back and forth, and it feels like what you would see if you were watching an actual sword fight, other than the fact that the combinations and animations are almost unbelievable. And obviously you can tell by looking at the gameplay that the combat is fast and fluid. It looks amazing, but something that I noticed right away playing the game is that even an average player playing this game is going to love it. And the reason for that is you don't have to be amazing at this game to look like a badass. The way the game is designed is that instead of something like a fighting game or another game where you hit like triangle, triangle, square, triangle, triangle, that's your combo. In this game, you may only have to hit triangle like twice, but your character hits multiple times. So it looks flashier than what you're actually doing. So if you're standing there watching, you might be thinking this player is doing all kinds of crazy things to make their character do what it's doing on the screen, but you're really not. So when you look at my gameplay, you're gonna be like, wow, he looks really good at this game. But the reality is I'd played the game for 5 minutes, and that's how good I look. When you watch the Crimson Desert gameplay, the person playing that in that video on our channel is a pro at that game. Everyone I watched playing that game couldn't do anything near what that player was doing, but everyone you watched play Phantom Zero looked like a pro. So that's the biggest difference there. I feel like the game is way more accessible, has a much lower skill floor, and anyone who's playing could look like an amazing ninja badass. And hearing that, you might be thinking that the game is too easy, that nobody should be able to do that sort of stuff if they just played the game for 5 minutes. And this is actually something I sat and discussed with S-Game a bit. Because the game currently has normal and hard difficulties, they wanted some feedback on how does the game stack up compared to other games in the genre. Like, how is it compared to like Sekiro or Ninja Gaiden or Souls games like that? This is not a Souls game, remind you, but they wanted to know how the challenge of the game was. And I finished the demo on normal and hard, and I actually finished the hard faster than I finished normal because I had had more playtime by that time, so I was more familiar with the controls. But I definitely found the game to be a bit too easy. I don't feel like I should have been able to clear it that quickly for just having started the game. But this is something they want feedback about, and I imagine they may add another difficulty to the game, like a very hard mode, or maybe they'll tune up hard mode. But they're definitely looking for feedback for this, so if they ever release a demo for this, I don't know if they will, but they certainly could, make sure you provide your feedback on that. But one more thing I'll say about the difficulty of it is, I don't mind the difficulty as it is right now. I felt amazing playing, it looked amazing to watch, and it was so much fun. And fun to me is more important than difficulty. I would much rather have fun time with a game than be challenged by a game. So if they don't improve the difficulty, that's not going to be the end of the world for me. But I definitely, as it stands now, I think it's a little bit on the easy side. However, it wasn't all completely easy, and one of the bosses that I fought actually had an instant kill mechanic. When you started the fight, you ran in, he does this animation where he like throws this thing up in the air. It's like a bell, I think, and then it comes down on your head. Well, if it lands on your head, you die instantly, which is just kind of awesome, in my opinion. And there's ways you can get around that. You can either dodge it and attack, or you can hide behind a pillar so that he can't hit you with it. And they definitely showcase different ways to avoid that attack, but I speculate that a lot of other bosses in the game will have one-shot mechanics that if you just whiff on, that's the end of that fight for you. So this game may be a bit harder moving forward when you're fighting harder bosses that might have those mechanics. And in terms of level design, although you won't see a ton of gameplay footage of me exploring in this game because there just wasn't a lot to the demo, something that I found really interesting was like one of the first areas I explored, I actually ran in to fight a few guys in this area, and I didn't realize that there were archers up on the sides that were just plugging away at me while I was fighting, and it made it very difficult, and I ended up dying. Well, the second time around when I came through, I snuck up on one archer before he could do anything and assassinated him, and then took my bow out and shot the guy across the way in the face, and he died. So then I jumped down and fought the guys because there were no archers plugging at me. So in that sense, it reminded me a lot of Sekiro, where like you can use stealth to your advantage on the gameplay to thin out enemies before engaging enemies, and I expect that to be a huge part of like the, parts where you're not doing boss fights. And another thing that you can't really see in the demo is that there is going to be loot while you explore. They specifically mentioned that they removed it for the demo. There isn't going to be a ton of equipment and gear for your character to get. They mentioned that the game leans more towards an action game, so there's going to be less on the side of that, but there will be different weapon types to acquire, and I imagine there will probably be more than one weapon of each type. I don't know what all the names of the weapon classes are. You can see kind of an Adachi-looking weapon in my gameplay, dual blades, etc. But there is going to be more than that, obviously, in the full version of the game. And you generally have 2 weapons equipped, and what I really love about combat in Phantom Blade Zero is that you're actually rewarded when you swap weapons mid-combat. Not only does it look flashy, but I think it also replenishes some stamina, or at least prevents some stamina from deteriorating for you for a little bit of time, which allows you to continue your onslaught. So you're kind of like encouraged to swap weapons mid-combat, and managing your stamina is a big part of playing Phantom Blade Zero, because a lot of times if you're deflecting or blocking or attacking, you're running out of stamina, and if you run out, then you can't do anything else, and obviously you're going to have to back away because you can't just keep attacking. So I really love that they've kind of not only mechanically tied that in, but from a flashy standpoint, it looks really good. And Phantom Blade Zero by no means is the first game to incorporate this. However, I feel like it's done in a really well way here, and I feel like as a player who doesn't normally weapon swap in like Neo or something like that, because I find that it's too challenging for me and the reward is often not worth the risk. In this case, I almost feel like it's always worth it, and I was trying to weapon swap as often as I could, and that felt amazing. So that kind of wraps up my impressions for Phantom Blade Zero. This is by far the best game I played at Gamescom 2024. There's another game that I played that I really want to talk to you guys about that I can't yet, that is still under a lot of NDAs. It is not a similar type of game to this at all, but I look forward to talking to you about that. But this game, like, look how beautiful it looks. The graphics are good. It's smooth. It runs on Unreal 5, and it is so smooth. There is no frame drops or anything. This is playing on the PlayStation 5. This is all PlayStation 5 footage. This is not PC. So you can see that it already plays well on PlayStation 5. I hope that means that the final version of this game won't have any performance issues. I know that is a big issue in the industry this day and age, and even Black Myth had some performance issues. This is a game that's going to be at Tokyo Game Show in a little over a month, and we will play it again there, hopefully. Hopefully the demo is a bit different, so I can showcase some different gameplay from the game. But this is one I'm absolutely going to be keeping an eye on. If you are a PlayStation or PC player, and you like action-type games with, like, really heavily combat-focused, you should definitely keep an eye out on this game. So what do you guys make of Phantom Blade Zero? Was this one that you had on your radar from a while ago? Is it just getting on your radar? What do you hope to see in this game? What concerns do you have? What are you excited for? Let me know all those things in the comments below.